Motion to open the zoning board of appeals meeting.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion to open case number 4318. The folder.
No. I'll entertain a motion to open case number 4318.
I made the motion, someone needs to second it.
Oh,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We haven't got
The letter.
the, yeah, so, well, right,
This one?
well, no, Mr. Crimmins can speak first and tell us what you want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Attorney Barry R. Crimmins of 909 Washington Street in Stoughton. I'm here along with the applicant and property owner of 220 Pleasant Street, Marcus Torchia, seated to my right. I just want to check, is Marguerite on?
Not yet.
Meeting?
Not yet.
No, okay. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think. Jay, you weren't at the December meeting, were you?
Yes, I was.
You were? Oh,
I wasn't.
Yeah,
Oh,
we all was.
okay, okay. I get you two mixed up. All right. So at that December 5th meeting, couple of questions came up that the board asked us to address. I think the main one had to do with revising the proposed parking. If you recall, we were proposing a certain number of parking spaces that, although this board would have it within its authority to approve, when we went to the planning board for site, when we go to the planning board for site plan approval, it would have necessitated a waiver from the planning board. Marcus has had the plan revised. I see, I believe all of you have copies of that revised site plan that shows the parking to the rear, along with the spaces, I think 4, Marcus, under the building itself, and then the remaining spaces to the rear of the property. You have, I believe, a memo, I see, Sherm, you have it there. The memo from the town planner, Bill Roth, that he has indicated his approval, if you will, not in the formal sense, but he believes this plan meets, again, the requirements in terms of the required number of parking spaces. The only, in our opinion, assuming this board were to therefore go along with the plan as revised, the only way that plan would change, and we're not anticipating that it will, but if we went to the planning board and somehow, you know, they wanted us to revise the plan and in such a manner that was acceptable to Marcus. But we're not anticipating that, as I said. We're anticipating, and certainly based on Bill's email, that we're anticipating that plan will be acceptable to the planning board when we go before them. Again, it's a compliant plan as far as the parking is concerned, so I can't anticipate any reasons why the planning board would not approve of it. So that's the plan we're going with. We want to avoid, frankly, getting into sort of a ping-pong situation of going back and forth between the two boards. And again, I don't anticipate that we should have to come back before you, assuming, again, that you were to approve the plan. So if you were to, we would then move on to site plan approval with the planning board, and again with the expectation and hope that they as well accept that plan as shown. Okay, so that's the issue. I believe addresses the issue that came up at the December 5th meeting in terms of the parking. The other question that came up had to do with the sort of or two things, because I see the decisions in front of Jeff and Emil. The a question came up as to whether or not the prior decisions from 2012 in any way restricted Marcus's ability to further reconstruct the dwelling, and you'll see from the decisions there are no such prohibitions in either decision. The only language which is contained in both decisions is just standard language that if anything were to change from what had been approved by the board, then we would have to come back before the board, which is exactly what we're doing on the new application. But beyond that, there was nothing that said, okay, we're granting a special permit and a variance to allow you to convert the then existing single family to a two-family, and you cannot further expand. There is no such language to that extent that in any way restricted Marcus's ability to further expand the dwelling as we're proposing to the board on the current application. And lastly, I believe a question came up as to what's the standard of review to be applied by the board. And Jeff, I forget whether that came from you or from Marguerite, or sort of maybe a combination of folks.
Standard of review. I don't really recall that exact phrasing.
Okay.
Some context, maybe?
I might have, well, it's interesting you say that because Jack and I had a discussion on that question, and frankly, I looked at my notes and I could not recall exactly in what context that question did come up. What it resulted in me doing, and I don't know, Jack, if the members have that memo or that email that I drafted.
No, they don't. I mean, I have it here. I highlighted it.
Okay. Did you ever hear from Brian today?
No, we didn't get with
Okay.
them.
Okay. I think I can summarize things. You have two, as we always do. We have the local zoning bylaw, and in this particular case, we're in the context of Section 5 of the bylaw that deals with non-conforming uses and structures. Okay, and let me, Mr. Chairman, it will be easier for me to work off of my memo than to go through the bylaw itself. You have several sections of under Section 5 that apply in a particular case. And then in addition to Section 5, we have the state statute, Chapter 48, the Zoning Act, and specifically Section 6 of Chapter 48, which deals with non-conforming uses and structures. Section 5.3 deals with, is sort of the starting point in terms of non-conforming structures. 5.2 deals with non-conforming uses. 5.3 deals with non-conforming structures, and it kind of lays out. Let me read a certain section from that, if I may. And I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but I think it will help with to kind of frame the discussion. Section 5.3, non-conforming structures. The general standard of review for the expansion, reconstruction, et cetera, of a non-conforming structure. So now we're just talking non-conforming structure, not necessarily residential, commercial, just non-conforming structure. Is found in Section 5.3, which provides as follows. The Zoning Board of Appeals may award a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change a non-conforming structure in accordance with this section, only if it determines that such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change...
Hold on.
Is that Marguerite?
Yeah.
I'm on a roll here.
Yeah, but do you want her to be able to ask questions?
No, I don't. Kidding.
You need help, Gary?
Just admit right there. Yeah.
There we go.
Can you hear us?
Uh-oh. Not that.
Kyrie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
So we opened the meeting, and Barry, you want to just go over quickly what you
Yep.
what you basically said?
Yeah, and Marguerite, good evening. So the first thing we addressed were the changes to the site plan, and I trust you have a copy of that, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And so that's the plan we're proceeding with. I mentioned the fact that that Bill Roth, the town planner, submitted a memo to the board indicating that plan shows compliant parking as far as the proposed number of units is concerned. And so therefore that is the plan that we're planning on moving forward with. If this board were to approve it, we then would move forward with site plan approval with the planning board. We are not anticipating, I have no reason to believe that the planning board would not also, as Bill Roth indicated, would not also approve that parking plan as submitted. So, we're hoping, as I mentioned to the board, to kind of avoid going back and forth between the two boards. That we think that plan works. It works both from a sort of a legal standpoint in terms of meeting the requirements under the bylaw, as well as from a practical standpoint in terms of the parking, accommodating the anticipated number of vehicles for the units. Remember, the bylaw, the current bylaw still has a pretty high parking requirement. A parking requirement, I think most people would agree, is probably excessive in today's marketplace, but be that as it may, this plan does comply with that parking. The next issue, Marguerite, that we addressed is, as you know, I provide copies of the 2012 decisions to support our statement at the last meeting that there is nothing in those decisions. Those decisions allowed my client to expand the then single-family home to a two-family by special permit from the board. There was nothing in either of those two decisions that in any way prohibited any further expansion of the dwelling. So I submitted those decisions in support of that contention or that statement. So lastly, Marguerite, I was just starting to address this question that came up in the context of what standard of review is the Zoning Board of Appeals to apply in this application, and just starting to talk about first the requirements under the local bylaw, Section 5, non-conforming uses and structures, and then I'll tie in how that relates to the state statute, Chapter 48, Section 6. So I think that basically gets you caught up, unless you have any questions on any of those items.
No, I saw all of that submitted for purposes of night, and I reviewed it and understand the position you have, and it seems consistent with the documents you submitted.
Okay, great, thank you. So just continuing on, so again, Section 5.3 set, sort of, we might call it sort of the general rule as it relates to expansion of a non-conforming structure. So I do want to just go back and read that provision where it says, the Zoning Board of Appeals may award a special permit to reconstruct, extend, alter, or change a non-conforming structure in accordance with this section only if it determines that such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change, and here's the sort of magic language, shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. And in my memo, I highlighted that language because you'll see that language not only throughout the bylaw, but that language is similar to the language found in Section 6 of Chapter 48. That's kind of that is, in my opinion, the standard of review. Okay? So again, basic framework or basic general rule found in Section 5.3. Then I go on to say Section 5.3 is further broken down in Section 5.3.1, permissible changes, to provide examples of the types of changes permitted under Section 5.3. 5.3.1 provides as follows. The following types of changes to non-conforming structures or non-conforming structures may be considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the first one is reconstructed, extended, or structurally changed, which is what we're dealing with, or two, altered to provide for a substantially different purpose or for the same purpose in a substantially different manner or to a substantially greater extent. So those are generally the types of things the board could consider granting a special permit for. Then we go on in the bylaw, and we have section 5.4 that says variance required. So it admittedly, it gets a little confusing here, but bear with me, and hopefully we can all come to the same end result here. 5.4 says this section provides certain circumstances when such reconstruction, expansion, etc., would require a variance in order to be authorized. It also provides for an exception to the variance requirement as follows. In the quoted language right from the bylaw is as follows: except as provided in section 5.5 below, the reconstruction, extension, or structural change of a nonconforming structure in such a manner as to increase an existing nonconformity or create a new nonconformity, so either to increase an existing nonconformity or create a new nonconformity, shall require the issuance of a variance, provided, however, that the extension of an exterior wall at or along the same nonconforming distance within a required yard shall require the issuance of a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here, if you recall. The proposed addition to the rear, and we're only dealing with, if you will, the right side, which is where it encroached into the side yard setback, which is the reason for the variance from the prior case. We're simply extending that side wall back along that side yard setback. We're actually increasing that side yard slightly, but in doing so, we meet the standard enunciated in 5.4, where it says extension of an exterior wall at or along the same nonconforming distance within a required yard shall require the issuance of a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals, okay? As opposed to requiring a variance. And as an aside, and without getting into a whole academic discussion that no one's interested in, but as you folks know, variance is a higher standard of review than the special permit, not substantially more detrimental standard. Variance, you have to demonstrate hardship. It has to relate to soil shape or topography of the lot, all of those types of things, okay? So that's why it's important in distinguishing a variance versus a special permit. So finally, then we get into section 5.5, because remember in 5.4 it says except as provided in section 5.5 below, okay? So we get into 5.5, and 5.5 carves out an exception for single and two-family residential structures. And once again, it tracks the language of Chapter 48, Section 6. And it basically, the legislature in its wisdom made a determination that as it relates to nonconforming structures, we're not going to have as high a standard for a single or two-family, dwelling as we would for some other non-conforming structure. Okay, that's the basic premise of this section. So section 5.5, non-conforming single and two-family residential structures. This section, as previously referenced above, provides a special carve-out or exception from the general requirement of a special permit being required for the reconstruction, expansion, etc. of non-conforming structures when such structures are single or two-family residential structures, as follows. And it says, and again, I'm quoting right from the bylaw. Non-conforming single and two-family residential structures may be reconstructed, extended, altered, or structurally changed upon a determination by the building inspector, okay, not by the board, but by the building inspector, okay, that such proposed reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change does not increase the non-conforming nature of said structure by more than 100% gross floor area. Now, with apologies to the drafts people of whoever drafted that language in the bylaw, it's a very difficult sentence to kind of get your head around. But however, I think for our purposes, we don't need to be too concerned with that specific language for reasons that I'll mention momentarily. 5.5 then goes on to give examples of, types of situations where the changes are such that, again, if they fall into this provision, not increasing the non-conforming nature of the structure, where the building inspector is the initial gatekeeper to make a determination before it would even get to the board, okay? And 5.5.1, Like Section 5.3 referenced above, Section 5.5 is further broken down in Section 5.5.1 to provide 3 specific examples of circumstances whereby a special permit would not be required and that a building permit may be issued, and again, issued by the building inspector. Specifically, this section provides as follows. The following certain circumstances shall not be deemed to increase the nonconforming nature of said structure, and a building permit may be issued. The first 2 examples under 5.5.1 do not relate to the current application, so I've skipped over them, and we go to item number 3 in that section. Item number 3 states as follows. Alteration, extension, or change to a structure which encroaches upon one or more required setbacks, where the alteration will otherwise comply with all current setback, yard, building coverage, and building height requirements. Provided, however, and again, here's once again another rule, exception, and exception to the exception. Provided, however, that the extension of the main front, side, or rear wall at or along the same non-conforming distance within a required yard shall also be deemed not to increase the non-conforming nature of the structure so long as no new encroachment in another required yard results. So once again, we're extending that side yard. We're not coming any closer in the setback. In fact, if anything, it's bumping it out a little bit. So once again, the 5.5.1 says in that situation, okay, that the building inspector can make a determination whether or not an applicant needs to come to this board for a special permit or whether the building inspector can issue the building permit, okay? So let me just go back to that again just so everyone's clear. You know, it's under permissible changes, 5.5.1, the third example, alteration, extension, or change to a structure which encroaches upon one or more required setbacks, where the alteration will otherwise comply with all current setback, yard, building coverage, and building height requirements. Provided, however, that the extension of the main front, side, or rear wall at or along the same non-conforming distance within a required yard shall also be deemed not to increase the non-conforming nature of the structure so long as no new encroachment in another required yard results, which is exactly the situation that we're dealing with. So I go on to say, if the building inspector determines, and again, this is right from the bylaw, if the building inspector determines that the proposed alteration, extension, or change exceeds one or more of the criteria set forth above, the Zoning Board of Appeals may, by finding a fact that you folks are accustomed to, allow such alteration, extension, or change where it determines that the proposed modification, and here's that magic phrase again, will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood, okay? So once again, we start with the building inspector for a determination if it fits within one of those 3 criteria. If it does, the building inspector can issue a permit for the proposed alteration, and we don't need to come to the board. If the building inspector determines that it doesn't comply with one of those 3, then it can come to the board for a special permit under the standard that it not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. Okay. And now quickly, I just go into a quick sort of analysis or between what I've just been through with the bylaw and Chapter 48, Section 6, which also deals with the reconstruction, expansion, et cetera, pre-existing non-conforming uses and structures. This section similarly contains the same special exception or carve-out for the reconstruction, expansion, et cetera, of pre-existing non-conforming single and two-family residential structures. Specifically, the first paragraph of said section provides as follows, and if I could, it starts out by saying normally, if the work is being done after there's been an amendment to the bylaw, then you're subject to the new bylaw. But then one of the 2, what they refer to as the 2 accept clauses in that section, in that paragraph of Section 6 of Chapter 48 says, except where alteration, reconstruction, extension, or structural change to a single or two-family residential structure does not increase the non-conforming nature of said structure. Okay? So in other words, if that's the case, that type of reconstruction can go forward. Okay? Section 6 goes on to say, in regard to other non-conforming uses and structures other than non-conforming single or two-family residential structures as follows. Pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses may be extended or altered, provided that no such extension or alteration shall be permitted unless there is a finding by the permit granting authority or by the special permit granting authority designated by ordinance or bylaw that such change, extension, or alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use to the neighborhood. Therefore, based on the above referenced standards, whether it be under the town's bylaw or the state statute, an argument exists that the building inspector could be entitled to issue a building permit for the proposed alteration based on section 5.5.1 at item number 3, cited above. In the alternative, the zoning, if the building inspector were to determine it didn't meet the criteria in item 3. In the alternative, the Zoning Board of Appeals would be authorized to issue a special permit for the proposed expansion, whether under the same section or under section 5.3 or section 5.4 of the town's bylaw, based on the standard of the proposed expansion not being substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. So, with apologies for a very long explanation to
I think I did ask this question.
a relatively short question. I think we have a situation that I believe, based on the proposed addition, that it does fit within that third paragraph of section 5.5.1, and it is a situation that the building inspector could, if he were to agree, issue a permit for the reconstruction. In the alternative, if he felt that it did not, and I'm not trying to put Jack on the spot because we really haven't discussed this, that it would go to the board for a special permit based on the standard that it's not, the proposed alterations would not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood, which I certainly feel that it fits within. I don't think there's any detriment, let alone a substantial detriment. Again, we talked last month about the fact that there are many other multi-families in the area. As you go along Pleasant Street, down to Lincoln Street, down Grove Street. So I think for all those reasons, I don't believe there could be a reasonable argument put forward that there would be any type of detriment, let alone a substantial detriment. And those words matter. You can't sort of read, if it says substantial detriment, you can't read that to just say detriment. The legislature meant to put in the word substantial when they adopted the statute. So again, I think for all those reasons, and again, as I said, I think this was something that if I had an opportunity, I would like to have had an opportunity to discuss this with Jack. But you did say, Jack, that you at least saw my memo, even though the board had not seen it, right?
The emails.
Yeah, the email. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that, Mr. Chairman, I hope responds to the questions that came up at the last meeting, and we're certainly happy and welcome the opportunity to take a break and answer any questions, any further questions or comments that the members may have.
Questions?
I don't have any questions on this part of it. When, on the Bill Rowe part of it, then.
Bill Roth.
Bill Roth, that we'll discuss tonight.
Okay.
At that time.
Yep.
Thank you for that long,
My apologies.
repetitive, I guess, in different areas. But, towards the second half, you started saying a few things that I think were kind of throwing me for a loop and why I was asking kind of your take on that. And, I think the concept that the building inspector could so choose to just issue the permit, it applies to 1 and 2 family homes, certain conditions, which those conditions you claim are met here. But this is not a variance application. This is a conversion from a 1 or 2 family home to a 4 family home, which is not in the scope of that exception. And so then I'm wondering if the only path is a judgment or a finding that is not significantly more detrimental to the neighborhood.
And I think on a sort of a belt and suspenders approach, because to be honest with you, Jeff, I sort of had the same question, because we still have the use question in the bylaw that talks about the conversion requiring the special permit. I'm not quite sure, frankly, how we reconcile those two things, but we're happy to present it as, a special permit application, under the conversion provision of the bylaw that does allow it to be converted to up to 4 units. I think most of this would relate to, assuming the use issue, is this application something that requires a variance because we're not meeting a side yard setback? And I think what I went through primarily relates to that issue. Okay, and it kind of goes from anywhere from saying you need a variance to you only need a special permit to actually it's something that the building inspector could approve. But I agree, we still have the fundamental conversion provision that requires a special permit.
That's really the only thing I'm kind of hung up on right now. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want to ask the building inspector what their opinion is, or maybe give them the right to refrain from comment, but I'm curious if they've been called out to have any thoughts on that. It's up to you, though, if you want to ask that.
Say no.
I'll wait until Marguerite gets done. Emil?
No questions.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Jeff just last said, that Jack said say no to. It was a little...
I asked Sherm if he'd like to ask Jack his thoughts on Barry's suggestion that he could just approve this on his own.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
We deferred that for now.
Jay?
I think Mr. Crimmins' long-winded explanation explained everything that I needed to know.
Thank you, I think.
Marguerite?
So I appreciate, Barry, your explanation. I saw it in your email. I don't disagree with your summary overall as a general concept with everything you said about the zoning bylaw and 48 section 6. I agree with Jeff that I don't think section 5.5.1 or paragraph 1 in the second exception clause or either exception clause applies in this case, because the application is for a 4-family structure, not for a 2-family structure, and I think the conversion has a substantive impact to 5.5 and to 48 section 6 and their exception clauses. So I think that you are covered under 5.4 and 5.3, and this is where we were at the end of the last meeting, which is what is the reference to the special permit in 5.4. I hear your argument is that that is the reference, the explanation that 5.3 covers. I was looking for a town council to provide us with an opinion on that. I'm not sure if they've done that, and I'd be interested in hearing that. I also think that for the zoning board, we wanted to take a belt and suspenders approach that, the application we received covered not just this standard of substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure of the neighborhood, but it also covered all the other provisions of a typical special permit. Our issue had been that we felt like there was a parking concern because the plans we had been presented with at the last meeting had various options, neither of which were supported by the town fully, both of which had some ongoing concerns and problems. And I feel that by virtue of the submission of the revised plan at this stage with maybe some conditions, maybe that's been resolved. So I'm not sure we necessarily have to figure this out. We could probably issue a decision that involves both findings. And I am interested to hear if town council was contacted on this and if they provided an opinion. And to be perfectly honest, I don't feel section 5.5 applies. So I would want to know what town council's opinion was about what's the standard under 5.4.
No, it's me.
Was council,
So we tried to get on his docket twice. We couldn't. He, as you know, he has office hours here on Thursdays. We couldn't get in. I did text him and ask him if he could at least reach out to me before he left. I didn't hear back from him, so I didn't get anything from him, Marguerite. What's the next question?
No, I appreciate that, Jack, and I'm just going to say publicly that I think it's concerning. The zoning board asked for an opinion from town council on this in December. I'm sure I know their holidays were involved. I'm sure you tried to reach on this docket twice. I think we can get around it in this case so that the petitioner isn't impacted by it. But we sometimes need town council's opinion in order to support actions that we're taking. And I don't think that we ask for it very often. And I would hope that when we do request it, that we could find a way to get on town council's
Actually, he just replied.
agenda. Get that, and that has nothing to do with you, Jack, at all, or Kristen, or anybody else. And strictly, I'm making this statement more for the benefit of the other people in the town who control the use of town council. So I'm just going to say that publicly, but I think we can get around it because of the application revisions that we've received tonight, and because I think we can make findings in addressing both standards of special permits here. But Barry, I do hear your argument, putting aside 5.5, I hear your argument about why you think the standard in 5.4 is what 5.3 talks about.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
yeah, no, thank you, Marguerite. And I don't disagree necessarily with what you're saying. I think, you know, if I heard you correctly, if you say that 5.4 controls, which I don't have a problem with, that once again starts out by saying, you know, that a variance would be required if you were going to create a new nonconformity or exacerbate an existing or increase an existing nonconformity, but then says, however, the extension of an exterior wall at or along the same non-conforming distance within a required yard shall require the issuance of a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So with that, then I think that kicks us back up to 5.3, the general provision for altering, reconstructing an existing non-conforming, and it then has as the standard for the issuance of the special permit that shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. So I think we have the answer right there in the bylaw.
Wait a minute, you said he got back to,
He just replied that he just saw it now.
oh, so he
and-
didn't give us
No,
any
he-
information.
He said, I just saw this now.
Yeah.
So.
But I think, Marguerite, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're saying,
I don't think Barry, I don't think your argument is unreasonable. I'm not trying to say that I disagree with it. If I did, I usually share that with you. I just feel that for the zoning board's purposes, it really is helpful for us to have the opinion of town council on this. So that was what I was hoping we would receive. We didn't. I think we can get around it by making a determination with both in play,
okay,
both standards in play here because of the revised site plan that your client presented to us tonight.
Okay.
I do have one question that I do want to make sure is in the record for purposes of confirming what I think we can do tonight. The variance, so I believe this, but it's hard for me to know because the prior approvals happened in 2012. At any point in time, did this house, before it was expanded into a two-family, did that ever comply with this side yard setback? Or was it always a non-conforming structure as to the side yard setback.
Yes, always non-conforming. It's a 10-foot,
I think that's important to me, because if it was an expansion of a non-conforming structure that became non-conforming by virtue of a zoning approval, I think it is different, but that's not the case here.
Correct, Margaret.
So thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
You all set?
I don't have any other questions about this area.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's the wish of the board?
If I may, just so we can kind of tie things up in a bow, I think, because there's been a lot of, back and forth and a lot of sections reference and everything. So I think, again, what we're asking for, I believe, so it would be two things. It's the special permit under section 3, principal uses, residential, item number 5, for conversion of an existing dwelling structure to a multifamily, provided the total number of units in the converted dwelling structure shall not exceed 4 dwellings. So it's a special permit under that section. And then I believe upon a finding by this board under section, we could say both 5.3 and 5.4, however you want to characterize it, I'm not overly concerned, a finding from the board that the proposed expansion on that right side, that side yard, is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity. I agree. Do you agree that's the way it should be approached?
Yeah, I think we need to make a request we need to vote to make findings under 5.4 and 5.3 standard, and then we also need to vote to approve a special permit under the special permit provisions of, I think it's 10.5.2, but I might be wrong on that.
No, you're absolutely correct. I agree.
And I just do want, sorry, I was trying to address standards in the last week. I was looking back through my notes. We had a condition in prior meetings related to snow removal, which was to be to the open field, which I think is where you're proposing parking at this stage. Just, can you confirm what the snow removal plan is under the revised plan?
yeah, actually, it's, all the pointed questions in the previous meeting. The two major parts of it was actually the snow removal, why why I needed to make these changes. They're all very good points. Where there was former parking, there was 2 spots where the dumpster is currently located now in the revised plan. It's a 2.5 yard dumpster. That particular area is 25 by 20, with more than enough space to take on snow that comes up the driveway or down the driveway, however you want to call it. And if I can just sort of point it out on the camera here. So any of the snow pack that gets accumulated from the plow can be accumulated at that paved area where the dumpster is, number one. And then any of the snow that runs basically west to east, moving across, can be moved over here to the left-hand side. It's an open field. It's all open grass, or however you want to call it. And in addition to that, if you look to the right-hand side, there's also another 15 to 20 feet or so on the right-hand side where additional snowpack can be located. So it's actually not just one spot, it's multiple spots where snow can be located.
So my thought at this stage, given Bill Ross' message to us and then your explanation right now on snow removal, would be that we add a condition that requires you to, that allows for the, through the site plan review process, that there could be modifications made to parking, snow removal, on-site traffic flow, and the dumpster trash pickup process, provided that the planning board finds that there will be no no concerns associated with whatever modifications they make to that through the site plan review process.
So, Marguerite, if I may, so I think I understand what you're saying, that if the planning board were to make changes under those categories, that they would be acceptable. In other words, we wouldn't have to come back to the board, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that we would allow, sorry, I didn't say it very well, so I was trying to formulate it in my head.
Yep.
We would allow for, there would be typically that we say that there's no modifications
Right.
to the plan, but this would allow for modifications to be made to those areas provided through the site plan review process. The planning board finds that no concerns exist to address the needs associated with parking, snow removal, internal traffic flow, and trash pickup.
Okay.
Is that a condition you could agree with?
Yeah, I think if you accept a slight amendment to it, maybe the language could simply be, we would sort of recite those sections, those provisions you mentioned, and say, as approved by the planning board through the site plan approval process, which I think is more or less what you said anyways. No, I
Yeah,
think,
modifications to those areas could be made by the planning board through the site plan review process.
Yep.
But I think it's important for us to have the planning board determine that no concerns exist with those areas as well. Like, I don't think that this can just be left. I want the planning board to know that the zoning board is requesting them to make an affirmative determination that this doesn't create any concerns
okay.
to the site in those areas, because those are the areas that we're focused on.
Agreed.
Okay. And I didn't see any other conditions that we talked about in any of my other notes. So those were the only ones I saw, unless one of the other members of the board has a condition they wanted to add. No? All right, then I guess I'll make a motion that we approve a special permit as requested to allow for the conversion of the two-family to the four-family dwelling as proposed under the site plan, revised site plan submitted at tonight's meeting, with the condition that no modifications to the site plan will be made without further approval by the zoning board, except with respect to snow removal, internal traffic flow, parking, and trash pickup, provided those modifications are made by the planning board through the site plan review process, and the planning board determines that there are no concerns with any modifications that are made to these areas.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And then I also make a motion that we make a finding that the proposed extension of the two-family dwelling to the four-family dwelling will increase the existing nonconformity by extension of the exterior wall on the side yard. It will actually reduce that existing nonconformity, but will not result in an increase to that nonconformity.
Second.
And then I make, sorry, we have to vote on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I make a motion that we find that the proposed, this proposal to increase the two-family to the four-family dwelling will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing two-family dwelling.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I think that's everything you need, Barry.
I believe so. Thank you. Anything, Cheryl? Anything? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Marguerite, thank you. Thank you, members, for your patience and intelligence with my very long and wordy explanation tonight.
I just want one thing. Don't hire the same contractor that made it too bad.
I'm sure, just so you know, I didn't actually vote on that last month. It was 4-0-1 abstain.
Barry, just to be fair, I'm not sure when our next meeting is, but it may take more than one meeting to write this all up. I just have to, it
Okay.
may take 2 meetings.
Yeah,
I'll do my best.
We should have a budget
So
one.
you were a non-vote, not a nay?
I didn't say anything, so I abstained, to be fair.
All right, no, that's,
One abstention.
Okay. Jeff, all right. When, is your next meeting on the 30th?
no.
Oh, I can tell you that.
Huh?
Where is it? Since I'm Trish
Never meet
now.
on the 30th.
I didn't
Unless
know.
it's a special meeting.
No, I didn't know whether because of the New Year's and you pushed the normal meeting to today. Okay, so just one meeting for tonight, this month.
Okay.
February, you're back to 1st and 3rd?
6th and the 20th.
6th and 20th in February, and then same in March,
And they're
obviously.
empty right now.
Oh, okay. So February 6th and 20th.
All right, if there's 3 weeks, it may be a little easier. I
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was 3 weeks to the next meeting.
No, that'll be fine, Marguerite, thank you. Okay, great, thank you again, everybody, appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Helping.
Yeah. Thanks, Jack.
You could have just given them a permit, we wouldn't have looked at it.
Well, 5.0 is like my magic wand.
What's that?
I said 5.0 is like my magic wand. It's just this.
Have you, I know you guys have another case, so I don't want to take up any more of your time, but have you folks looked at the new, under the Affordable Homes Act? Everyone's talking about the ADUs, which is a big thing, but the other big thing in that is the sort of non-merger doctrine provision. Where normally with non-conforming lots, if they're undersized, owned in common, they'd be considered merged as one.
Yeah.
Well, the new statute says that if the two lots each have at least 10,000 square feet and 75 feet of frontage, then it kind of defeats the merger and the vacant lot can be built upon. So,
But only 1,850 square feet.
I was doing the math today to figure, okay, what size house would that be? It's actually not
It's
too
not-
bad.
yeah.
It's interesting. No more than 1,850 square feet of what they call heated living space. So you're not counting a garage or an unfinished basement and that kind of thing. But then it says, but at least 3 bedrooms. So instead of, it's only 1,850 square feet, but you have to have at least 3 bedrooms. So those are going to be pretty small bedrooms for the most part.
Yeah.
But I was just saying to Marcus before we came up tonight, that's going to open up a lot of opportunities because lots that are often looked at and deemed to be unbuildable because they don't meet the current zoning or would require a variance, which is for area and frontage, those are the 2 toughest ones generally to get. I was called this week by somebody for property. I got to follow up with you. Property on a street that shall remain nameless. That several people have approached me through the years because it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. But I've said to them, no, there's no way, there's no way the board would ever grant a variance. It's only a 15,000 square foot lot in a zone that currently requires 40,000 square feet. But because it has the 15 and it has 100 feet of frontage, it defeats the merger doctrine. So it's going to be interesting. That's going to open up a lot of
It
opportunities.
is. I'm looking forward to it, to tell you the truth. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
You get so many lots that.
Glen Echo. Bunch of them in Glen Echo.
Yeah, but remember, they have to have at least 10,000. I mean, I had a client over in Randolph, house on a 5,000 square foot lot, and the vacant lot is 5,000. It's one of these old neighborhoods, kind of like where the 2,500 square foot lots that get combined, right? But it only has 5,000, so you can't do it. It's still, that type of a lot would still be considered merged. But the 10,000 is not a particularly high requirement,
No.
particularly compared to 40,000.
Right.
So.
And no more common ownership.
Right, exactly. Well, in the ADU thing, no requirement that the property be owner occupied. So that's going to be
Yeah.
big as well. So I'm Jack, I'll give you tomorrow off, and I'll follow up with you next week. Thanks again, folks. Good night, everyone. See you.
night.
See you, Jack. Thanks.
Come on up.
Okay,
Motion to open case number 4320. Actually, you should probably do 4321 first.
Which one is that one?
The
The
4321 is the chicken. Yeah, because that has an effect on the other one, even though they're two different things. So I'll make a motion, we open case number 4321.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing will be held in Town Hall, Conference Room B, room 301, third floor, 10 Pearl Street on January 16th, 2025, at 7:30 PM on a petition of Riley Belmont, case number 4321 for a special permit under the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw of November 18th, 2015, as amended. Use regulations, section 3.0, table of use regulations, F, accessory uses, item number 15, the raising and keeping of livestock, horses, and poultry as an accessory use, etc. In order to raise chickens located at 571 West Street, further identified in Assessors Map 28, Lot 15, in an RB zone in said Stoughton. Any person desiring to receive further notice concerning this petition as provided by the general rules of the Zoning Board of Appeals should file a written request containing his or her name and address with the board. Petitioner is representative or any other person desiring to be heard on this matter should appear at time and place designated. Sherman Upro Chairman. It was in the Patriot Ledger December 31st, 2024, and January 7th, 2025. Okay.
Motion to waive the reading of the abutters and to take the answers to question 8 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Like reading here? Okay.
Okay. Don't want, would you like to explain what you want to do?
So I want to build a chicken coop to house 6 chickens. And then I want to take the eggs, and that follows with the farm stand to sell the eggs at the farm stand. That's kind of it.
Did you get the requirements that you need for your chicken coop?
As in,
The cages and all the stuff, what the requirements for the cages are, and your storage of the,
yep, so they have a house. They have a fence built around the house so that they can go into, it's protected, it has a roof. The house has a roof, it has nesting boxes. Door, open, close.
and also what about the storage of your, the waste?
Oh,
And
waste.
feed, yeah.
So waste, that goes in a compost pile. We use compost for our garden. And the feed is contained in one of those metal containers with the lid, so it's secure. No rats, mice, anything can get to it. And the feed is stored also in the house, not outside.
That would be Board of Health.
Yeah, well, those are the requirements from, those are some of the requirements, I can't remember all the requirements, but it's really, that was Dan's,
Oh,
chickens was Dan's.
I was hungry. Had people crying. Okay, questions? You ask your questions? Or you have more?
No,
Marguerite, you have questions?
Are we taking both cases together?
I wasn't because I thought there was more questions on the, we can, but I thought there was more questions on the chickens than there would be on the, farm stand. Because I think they're two unrelated issues.
That's fine, I just wanted to know. So we're doing the chicken one, 4321 right now?
Yes.
And was there a thing that you couldn't sell the eggs? Do we have that? Did we have that?
I think that was a
I don't remember.
condition we had.
What's that?
I think that was a normal condition we had, but
Right.
I don't know if that's superseded because there's another case here for a farm
No,
stand.
is that a requirement of the bylaw?
That's a good question.
Do you know that? Did you know that, Marguerite?
I haven't looked at prior chicken decisions, and I don't know for sure. I don't think it's a requirement of the bylaw, because it's just, I think it's the bylaws as shown right there. It's part of the table of use regulations.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
But
think
Jack,
that's...
does Jack know the answer to
He
that?
said he has.
Yes, he does, and it's no.
Okay.
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 There is something about not having roosters, though. I didn't hear of that.
No roosters.
Yeah, she said hens in her
Not
thing.
having roosters.
I think we've also limited the number of chickens to six before,
yeah.
and I see that that's what's proposed.
Yep, I think 6.
Okay. And I think that was a
How many?
condition.
I'm
Six, Marguerite?
Yeah, that's what the bylaw says.
Yeah.
Unless it's a farm, then.
Right. 6 it
I
is.
don't know what the definition of a farm is, but.
5 acres.
5 acres.
Oh, 5 acres?
I've done my research.
Any more questions, Margaret?
I have questions more for the selling of the land than the chickens. I think if she's agreeing to abide by our requirements with the exception of the selling of the eggs, then
Okay.
she's answered all the other elements, then I think we can hold them.
Jeff?
No more questions for me.
Emil?
No questions. No questions.
You're not gonna be able to chase the chickens,
Even if I wanted to.
Jay?
No questions.
That's gonna be the easiest chicken case I've been on.
It's because Dan's not here.
Okay, what's the wish of the board?
I'll make a motion to grant a special permit in case number 4321 for the raising of chickens as stated in the petition.
Second.
Do you want the conditions that we've imposed in the past with the exception of not selling eggs
Yes,
added?
yes.
Did you second
I
that?
don't have the
guess I'll have to
decision
wait.
yet, so I don't know what they actually are.
I
But
know
they-
we definitely said no roosters, no
Oh,
more
Yeah,
than 6
yeah, the no
hens,
roosters,
waste is composted,
okay.
feed is gonna contain in a secured container,
Yeah, it has to-
and the house has to be enclosed.
Yeah, yep, she already agreed to all those, yes.
Sounds right to me.
and with what the Board of Health requires.
Okay, requirements of the Board of Health.
Was there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, you got your chickens, now you can't have a farm stand.
For a few minutes.
Okay,
Motion to open case number 40. Oh, do you have another question on that?
My question is to the board. I want to know who's going to be a new chicken decision writer. Neil and Jay look like they're aching to start writing zoning decisions. What do you think, Gary?
They're all the same.
Yeah, I'll do it. Sure.
Okay.
Just send me the.
Jay will? All right, Jay, I'll send you a template.
Yes, thank you. Will do.
Okay?
Okay, motion to open case number 4320.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Motion to waive the reading of the abutters and to take the
Gotta read
answers?
this in first.
Yeah,
Second.
no. Okay.
Public hearing will be held in Town Hall Conference Room B, Room 301, 3rd floor, 10 Pearl Street, on January 16, 2025, at 7:30 PM on the petition of Riley Belmont, case number 4320 for a special permit under the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw, November 18, 2015, as amended. Use regulations, section 3.0, table use regulations, 3.1, 3.4C, agricultural uses, item number 3, temporary, not to exceed erection or use for a period exceeding 3 months in any 1 year. Greenhouse or stand for retail or agricultural or farm products raised primarily on the same premises and in order to have a farm stand located at 571 West Street, further identified in Assessors Map 28, Lot 15, in an RB zone in said Stoughton. Any persons desiring to receive further notice concerning this petition is provided by the general rules of the zoning board of appeals should file a written request containing his or her name and address to the board. The petitioner or his representative or any other person desiring to be heard in this matter should appear at time and place designated. Chairman Pro Chairman was in the Patriot Ledger December 31st, 2024, and January 7th, 2025. Okay.
Motion to waive the reading of the abutters and to take the answers to question 8 is written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Explain what you want to do with the farm stand.
So I'm going to have it in front of my house, on my land, obviously. It has wheels to be easily moved. I'd like to sell like fresh produce that I grow from my garden, flowers, nothing that's processed. I'm not selling anything processed. And did you say I couldn't sell eggs, or I could?
You can.
I can? Okay.
That's usually one of the requirements, but it's not in the thing until you're asking for it, so.
Right, then I'd be selling eggs as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, questions?
I don't have any questions.
Marguerite?
Can you tell me what your proposal is for parking and traffic? That's just a very
Yeah.
interesting spot.
Yeah, so I have a very long driveway. People can pull into the driveway. They can pull onto the lawn. There's 2 islands across the street. One is directly across. The other one is kind of diagonally across. There's plenty of place, plenty of space for parking there. It holds multiple cars. So that would be planned for parking and traffic.
Do you own the islands across the street?
No, they're public.
Public. Okay. And what's the turnaround ability within your driveway?
It's turnaroundable. I don't know how to answer that.
So there's a way for vehicles so they won't have to back out onto
Yes.
West Street?
Mhm.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
You read the
section here, and it says something about not to exceed erection or use for a period exceeding 3 months in any 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning to only have this farm stand out for 3 months a year?
Well, that's all that they're letting me do, so
Yeah.
yes.
Any any idea which 3 months of the year you would be?
June 1st to August 31st.
Okay. Might that vary any year to year, or you think that's firm?
That would be firm,
Okay.
yeah.
Sure.
And if it was to vary, it would probably just be instead of June to August.
August, July, September. That's really it.
Pretty good. I don't have any more questions.
You're gonna save the eggs from January, July. You're not selling from July until Emil.
What are you growing in the garden?
Fresh produce, so just vegetables and flowers. A wide range of vegetables, I should say.
Good. No other questions?
Yeah, no questions for me.
Were you a farmer before?
I kind of have for my whole life. I kind of just do it on the side, but would like to expand.
We haven't had a farm stand in Stoughton for a while. I know they were pretty lucrative up on Park Street. I don't know about West Street.
Well, I'll be going there every Friday, so.
You'll be on the Cape by then.
Margaret, did you have any more questions?
Nope, she answered my questions about traffic and parking. Thank you. I think it's a needed thing in town, so I like it.
Nope, yeah, right, there's plenty of room there.
There's a lot of room.
Yeah, so, and
Okay,
I grew up down there. Yeah.
what's the wish of the board?
I'll make a motion, we grant the special permit for the farm stand with the requirements that were listed.
Do we want to specify a period of time during the year that it would be permitted?
I think that she's probably gonna find that she's gonna want more in September than June, so but it says 3 months, so,
Yeah, leave it open?
yeah.
Sure.
Floating 3 months.
3 months in a calendar year.
Yes.
That's what the bylaw says.
Okay,
Well, then I'll second that motion if it was made.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Number 5-0 on that one?
Yep.
Yes, 5-0 on that one.
You're all set?
Thank you.
Yep.
He's gonna be tired when he's growing all the fruit. Okay, we have a couple of decisions.
Okay, motion to open case number 4271.
Find them again.
Second?
There a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion to accept the decision as written in case number 4271.
Seconded?
All
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Motion to open case number 4294.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to
Aye.
accept the decision in case number 4294 is written.
A second?
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Motion to open case number 4302.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion to accept the decision in case number 4302 is written.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. That concludes my business.
Are you entertaining a motion?
I'm entertaining a motion Emil?
Second? Oh, wait.
So made. So moved.
Oh, wait, what?
I'm entertaining a motion for adjourning.
Oh,
So
motion to
moved.
adjourn?
And then you say you second that.
Second.
All right.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.